and turned out to be a fine wide receiver for the 49ers. Do you like him as a quarterback? He certainly has the arm. We saw that big pass at Michigan.
Absolutely. Remember Tony Martin, the wide receiver?
Yep.
He was a quarterback coming out of school. Never played wide receiver till he became pro. Till became a pro. Cordell Stewart, good completion, 62%, not a lot of yards. Touchdowns to interceptions, 10-3, which doesn't tell me Colorado's not going to throw the ball a lot. They got Rashad Salam there. Why should they? And when they do, they got Michael Westbrook, so it's going to go a long way. But, I mean, you look at the rushing yards, 639 yards, 7 touchdowns. He is a great athlete, almost too good an athlete to be a quarterback. But the second round, possibly to Minnesota, is where I would see Cordell Stewart possibly go. I think here, second and third round, you could see anywhere between 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks go.
Yeah, I like Stewart in the second round. I think he's worth, and Dennis Green, that's a perfect spot. Let's bring in the coach, Mike Gottfried, on Cordell Stewart. Is this not a project, but is this a lot of work and a gamble by teams, or is he a lot more polished than people think?
Chris, I think he is a polished quarterback. I agree with Joe. I think he's going to be a quarterback in the NFL. This is an average year for quarterbacks in this draft, but if you don't get a quarterback this year, next year is going to be worse. And I think the biggest thing, and I want to say this, is Eric Zier out there. He had the lowest interception ratio in the country per pass attempt, 2.8, I believe, lowest in the NCAA history, without a running game most of his career. So I like Eric Zier as the next best quarterback. And forget that height thing. The guy sitting beside you, have him stand up. I know he hasn't shrunk much, Joe Theismann, but he can only... Joe Theismann's 6 foot tall and had a great career in the NFL. Eric Zier will have a great career also.
Well, you tell me it was different then?
It was, Coach. I think what's happened, unfortunately, I appreciate the compliment regarding my height and everything, but I have to be honest with you. If I was in the college draft today, I was a fourth-round pick, the third pick of the Dolphins in the 71 draft. But if I was in this draft today, I don't think people would take me till the maybe 5th or 6th round on one thing, my height. I think the height would be a problem. I really do.
Well, we've talked quarterbacks, and those are the names to watch, whether it's the Rams or teams pretty much following here in the next 6 to 8 picks. I think you're right, Joe. We're going to start to see the quarterbacks run through here. We could see 4 of them in the second round. Let's go up to the podium. The pick is in from the St. Louis Rams.
Wake up.
With the 38th pick, St. Louis selects tackle from Nebraska, Zach Wiegert. Seattle is on the clock.
Well, we certainly know what kind of line Nebraska had, as everybody found out in the Orange Bowl if you weren't watching all year long. Well, let's go to Andrea Kramer on Wiegert. Andrea?
Well, keep this in mind, Chris. They're moving Wayne Gandy to tackle, but on the other side, Jackie Slater entering his 20th season, coming off of tricep surgery. Rich Brooks told me they are entering the season as though they will not count on having Jackie Slater as a starter. Now, they did get Dwayne White from the Jets, the guard, solidifies a bit on that position, so you figure that Wiegert is a very good pick for them. I want to put one other thing into perspective for you. When I spoke to Rich Brooks, I said, how difficult has all this been, this distraction of the move? Keep in mind, last weekend he was in St. Louis, not necessarily where a head coach wants to be a week before the draft. He said, it's not so much the move that has distracted him, it's the fact that he was the last head coach hired, and hence the last head coach to assemble his staff. The Rams coaching staff basically evaluated prospects on tape as opposed to going on the road. Certainly they must have watched enough good Nebraska tape to know that they like Wiegert. Chris, let's head back to you.
Well, Andrea, thank you. There wasn't much better tape with running the football than the Nebraska tape, that's for sure. 3 players from Nebraska could go, well, now all in the second round with Wiegert. Was he the best of the Nebraska guys in your eyes?
Yeah, he was, Chris, and he could have very easily been a late first-round pick. One of the more explosive drive blockers to come out in recent years. This is in the kickoff classic. See how he angles in, and look at the explosion. Look at the strength. Look at how he sustains that block and takes that defensive lineman 5, 6, 7 yards down the field. You also get some movement, the ability to trap and pull. That's why some people think there's no reason why he can't be a guard in the NFL. Look at the hit on 37, the corner. You just get a kid that's 300 pounds, that has great feet, great movement, can trap, pull, could be a tackle, guard with the Rams, gives you a lot of versatility. His forte at Nebraska was obviously movement and run blocking. What he's going to have to do, even though he didn't give up many sacks at Nebraska, is become a pro-style pass blocker, something you don't get a lot of reps with the Cornhuskers and their style of offense, Chris.
All right, Mel, the Seattle Seahawks are next on the clock with the second pick in the Dennis Erickson era. Their first pick was Joey Galloway, wide receiver. We'll be back with the next pick with the Seahawks in a moment.
Dad? Son, been a long time, Dad.
It's been a long trip, son. How about throwing me a cold one?
Just like old times, huh, Dad?
Just like the old days. This isn't a Pepsi.
I know. I saved 9 cents.
Unbelievable. Kid saved a lousy 9 cents.
Now at Pep Boys, get any 4 of our 35,000-mile all-season steel-belted tires at an incredible low $99.96. That's right. Any size, any set of 4, just $99.96 at Pep Boys now. 49 cents. Not a lot to pay for quality. Now at Pep Boys, Champion Spark Plugs just 49 cents after mail-in rebate. That's right. Champion Plugs just 49 cents at Pep Boys now.
The engine, a superbly fine-tuned piece of motion machinery. It possesses 750 horsepower savagery and an uncontrollable spirit fueled by fire, driven by courage. It has a mind of its own and praises those that can dance with it. The engine is four-wheel terror. NASCAR on ESPN. Strap in. The Haynes 500 tomorrow at 3.
With the 39th selection, Seattle selects tight end, Colorado, Christian Fourier. Next up on the clock, the Jets.
Well, I think is that Jacksonville at that spot?
That is Jacksonville,
that's
yeah.
Jacksonville at the 40 spot next. But they didn't give us much time to analyze the Seahawks. So look what they've done. Dennis Erickson's going to bring a change of offense up to Seattle. They go the 3 wideouts. Remember, they got Prohl in a trade. They got Blade sitting there. They draft the speedy Joey Galloway in the first round from Ohio State. Farrell Edmonds gone, who had been their tight end the last few seasons. So now they got Christian Fourier. Doesn't run tremendously, but a great blocker, catches very well, Mel, and definitely the 3rd tight end in this draft.
He definitely was, Chris. On a lot of teams' boards, there was some late maneuvering because he had a minor shoulder surgery in February, and he wasn't able to run as well as was expected in workouts. He was only running 4.95 when he's capable of running faster than that, Chris. 31, 30, 35 receptions the last 3 years. You see him his ability as a blocker. Now you see the hands. Look at the extension for a kid. His size, 31, 30, 35 receptions, like I said, the last 3 years. Took part in 692 plays for Colorado, 38 pancake blocks this past year. He can pretty much do it all for you as a hook zone threat and a blocker.
Well, and now they're moving fast and furious. There's Jacksonville.
Jacksonville picks tackle from Michigan State, Brian DeMarco.
Well, that's great value there.
Dallas on the clock from Tampa Bay.
That's a great value there for Brian DeMarco going to Jacksonville. And then the Cowboys are now up. First time we'll hear from them. Let's go out to Hank Goldberg at Weeb Eubank Hall in Hempstead, Long Island. Hank?
You know, that Jacksonville pick was belonging to the Jets before, but the Jets were active anyway. They have signed defensive tackle Eric Howard, a free agent, formerly of the Giants. They've signed him for 3 years, terms undisclosed. So they came in here looking for defensive line help. They got it. You can't say they haven't been active in the last 24 hours, starting with the Rob Moore to Arizona trade. So Eric Howard, now a member of the Jets. Let's go to Chris Mortensen in South Carolina.
Well, Hank, one of the players sliding in this draft is North Carolina cornerback Jimmy Hitchcock. And I tell you, basically the reason why is he has flunked a lot of physicals because of looseness in both his knees. And plus he had some injuries the senior season. He's just a guy who was once projected to be possibly a top 20 pick. He slid all the way down. Let's go back to New York.
All right, Mort, thank you. Oh, by the way, Eric Howard now moves just his locker down the hall, I guess, from in the Meadowlands, from the Giants to the Jets. So big signing there by the New York Jets, 3-year contract to Eric Howard. Brian DeMarco, Mel, possible first-rounder, right?
Possible first-round. Only lineman still left. We have had a run on offensive lineman of late is Barrett Brooks from Kansas State. Watch him here wearing Tony Mandrich's old number. Here he is against his teammate Juan Hammonds at the Senior Bowl practice. And I'll tell you, for a 325-pounder, he's got pretty good feet, great technique. I rate him as having the best technique of any offensive lineman in this draft. There he is at right tackle here, and you see the power. Did basically 25 to 33 reps at 225. Great strength, a great explosion. There's an undersized defensive end he was going up against there, but a kid that a lot of people had to consider at some point in this part of the draft. And I think Jacksonville and Carolina this year have done a remarkable job for expansion clubs new to the league. Polian did a great job, Tom Coughlin as well.
I don't mean to laugh at you, Mel, but when you say he's going up against an undersized defensive end, when the kid's 325, everybody's undersized.
Well, if you go up against anyone, they become undersized. If you go up against a guy like that. Let's go to Chris Myers with Dallas on the clock. Chris?
All right, Chris, thank you very much. The Dallas Cowboys working on a trade as we speak with the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons hoping to trade up. As you see Jerry Jones in the war room working the phones, it looks like the deal, if it is pulled off, Atlanta would move into that second-round selection of the Cowboys, the first of what was 3. That's the 41st selection. Dallas would then pick up the 46th selection in the draft, so further down in the second round, and then the 110th selection, which would, I believe, be the 4th round. So again, the Cowboys picking up a couple of players. One other thing to point out, sometimes injury plays an important role, and earlier in the day, in the Cowboy war room, we captured trainer Kevin O'Neill taking a look at some of the x-rays, and we cannot name the player because that would be unfair, but this is obviously a medical report that the Cowboys were concerned about. They took a look at the x-rays. This particular player, someone that they were thinking about in the later rounds, was ruled out because of a wrist injury, at least in the Cowboys' eyes. So at the moment, Dallas trading down with Atlanta, picking up more selections. Let's now go to Chris Berman in New York.
All right, Chris, the Cowboys in this draft doing more bailing than they did that night on the Titanic. We'll be back in a moment here in New York.
You really want a cellular phone, but you're afraid of the service plans, activation, the true cost. So you go back and forth again. Don't do that. Come into Radio Shack. We'll patiently explain everything you need to know about going cellular. And we can even sign you up. You'll see that not only are cellular phones nothing to be afraid of, they're actually quite friendly. Radio Shack. You've got questions, we've got answers. I don't want a roof. I don't want a windshield. I don't want a vanity mirror. I don't want a cup holder. I don't want a shortcut. The Suzuki Intruder.
I'd like to tell you about my friend Jake. Jake is music. If he's not playing, he's listening to music. He has a legendary music collection. He's got stuff from last century.
8 tracks.
The best times we have are just when we sit down and pick up the guitars and play what comes to our heads. Jake's just a great friend. Western.
Got his backstage passes?
Yes. Everybody loves him. Not too sure the neighbors do, though.
When you're with a friend as good as Jake, shouldn't you have a Heineken?
Do you dial 1-800-CALL-ATT to make a call with your calling card or to make a collect call? Yes. If you know the code, you know 1-800-CALL-ATT works with calling cards and for collect calls. It does both. Like a magic key that unlocks any phone, anywhere.
For card calls or collect calls, you'll always get AT&T's best deal if you know the code. Dial 1-800-CALL-ATT.
The only number you need when you're away from home.
Your true voice.
All right, welcome back to New York as Joe Theismann, Mel Kiper, and yours truly, Chris Berman, continue our coverage as we are now into the 9th pick, the 41st pick overall, the draft, the 9th pick of the second round. It belongs to Dallas, although we heard Chris Myers say they are trading with the Atlanta Falcons, which would be second down move that they have done. We heard him talk with